New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello and welcome back to Global Focus. Today I am Reverend Dr. Sharri Johnson, your host, and we have today, returning for a second time, a wonderful guest who has some really interesting things nobody knows about her. For instance, tomorrow she starts her first fencing class. Something that she's always wanted to learn how to do, and she just decided now is the time. Now, face up to it. Every one of us has got something that we've been going to do someday when we have the time. This is somebody who actually says, now's the time. And it was not until she earned her doctorate in spiritual studies that she realized that she'd been a minister in spirituality since she was a little tiny person. The only person who didn't realize it was her. And here's the interesting thing. And oddly enough, I find that this is a thing nobody knows about most of the ministers I know. She's an introvert. She's out and about a bit, but if she has the choice between being home reading a book and going out, she'd rather be at home. And I'm right there with her. So please help me welcome Reverend Dr. Lynita Mitchell-Blackwell.
Hello.
Well, thank you so much for saying yes.
Oh, thank you so much for having me again. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, it's always interesting, and we always learn something. And, I think a day is wasted when I haven't learned anything. So I'm always ready to have somebody on I know is going to teach me. So I'm going to just dive right in because your title is really interesting. You are an intuitive business consultant.
Yes, that is correct.
Now, business coach. That's intuitive and business don't often appear in the same sentence right next to each other. So tell me, first of all, what that means, and then tell me what's the number one reason that people are dissatisfied with their lives, even if they're outwardly successful.
Absolutely. And those two things actually go together. So I don't know if you planned that. So that was great.
I did.
And it's a real shame that more people do not associate intuitiveness with business, because most of the really successful business people that we know, I don't care what industry, they rely heavily on their gut. They have a very high self-trust, and they don't question why they feel the way they do, why they are being moved to do certain things. They just go and do it. And those are people with very high, what I like to call IQ, but it's intuitive quotient as opposed to intellectual. Most of them have high intellects as well, but this is a trust of spirit, a trust that everything that is going on around you is for you, that there is nothing against you, even when things are hard and there is a challenge or a trial, that there is something in this for you. It's something that's going to make you stronger, that is going to open you up to the next great big thing, that will help you to be a better servant to mankind, to love better yourself first and then others. And why more people aren't satisfied with their lives, Dr. Sharri? Well, that's why. Because we are always trying to please other people and meet somebody else's measurement or rubric instead of setting one for ourselves and embracing that. And the difference between that, I like to say, is the difference between living a perfect life versus living an excellent one, where a perfect life is, by definition, I am trying to check off somebody else's list. There is somebody else's standard that I'm trying to meet. Whereas an excellent one, well, I set the standard. And if I'm going to do that, then I am going to build in some grace for myself, right? And that means that it can be a sliding scale. And so I understand that there are some days when we wake up, just like when we get out there to get in traffic, some days it's smooth as butter, right? Life is good. Everything is just perfect. And then there are other days where we needed to wake up yesterday and get on the road in order for us to get on where we want to go on time. But there's grace built into that, with the understanding that no 2 days are the same, no two people are the same, and no two dreams are the same. And so we have to build for us, for ourselves.
I love that you link being intuitive with self-trust.
Absolutely.
That's a brand new makes my day because I learned something thing. It never would have occurred to me to hook those together, but it is obviously a clear connection. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So here's another one. What's the difference? Now, I have my idea, but this is a really important question everybody should ask themselves. What's the difference between happiness and joy? And how does that impact business performance?
Now that's a loaded question. Okay, so let's take the first, happiness and joy. So joy is an inside job. So that means that no matter what is going on externally, that we have total and complete control over what is going on inside, how we respond to what is going on, and the attitude toward whatever is going on. And that matters because once we determine that things aren't happening to us, but for us, then we see opportunity instead of problem, right? Whereas happiness is almost exactly the opposite, but not exactly. Almost, but not exactly. Happiness is externally defined. And it means that we have an opportunity to be emotionally hijacked at any time. Because, an example, I'm happy when I am with my bestie who lives in Charlotte. But that means that I'm sad when I'm not with my bestie who lives in Charlotte. So now I'm saying that there is some external force, something in the environment, something that has happened that has control over my feelings. And I am acting like I don't have the power to get right and be back in joy when I actually always do. Now, this is not to say that we deny our feelings, right? We have times of happiness, of sadness, of anger, of disappointment. Those are real. Those are God-given. Those are tools in our arsenal to be good human beings. Good beings being human, right? What I'm saying is we can't allow the tool to use us. We use the tool. And so once we have gotten whatever it is out of this circumstance, then we can come back into ourselves, into our joy, and that we can remember, this was for me. And we can learn what we're supposed to learn, meet who we're supposed to meet, experience, evolve, grow, expand, transcend the way we're supposed to, and then we can move on. Now, the other part to the question. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So just to make sure I hear what I think I'm hearing, what you're saying is that happiness is about feelings, and joy is about the internal atmosphere that you create and maintain.
That's right. Joy is determination. So happiness and these feelings, they are just like what you said. They are emotions, energy in motion. Whereas joy, that is a self-sustaining, energetic source that is within all of us. And it can only be snuffed out by us. But that also means that we can relight that candle at any time.
Cool beans. Okay, now I was so proud of myself because I knew what this acronym meant when I saw it. Because I love acronyms, and it just puzzles, just stumps me if I don't know what it means. But how does FOMO, that's fear of missing out, I just learned that recently. I was so excited. How does FOMO impact our ability to make strategic life decisions?
Oh, so that is the emotional hijacking that I was talking about, Dr. Sharri. So we sometimes get so caught up with what other people are doing. And we convince ourselves that if we don't get whatever it is in this moment, right here, right now, it'll never come again. Well, that feeds into an idea of scarcity, limitation, and lack. And we have said that we believe in an omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent God. So that means that he, she, they, them are everything, everywhere, all at once. So there can't be lack. There cannot be scarcity. So FOMO is false. It is truly false evidence appearing real. It is fear. And we have to learn to eclipse the fear. Now, I'm not saying that it will not rear its head. I'm not even saying that fear is not a worthy tool in our emotional kit, because fear can provide protection and caution in environments where we're not exactly sure what to do, who to trust yet. But I'm saying that it cannot dictate every step that we take. Fear cannot be in control. We have to control the fear. And once we get a good handle on the situations that we're in, then we can say, okay, now it's time for me to move forward. Now it's time for me to act in my joy. Now it's time for me to step out in my purpose and live in a loving and energetic way where I share my Taurus-based energy field with all that I encounter, but I do not allow all that I encounter to affect that energy field. So I'm not saying that we won't experience FOMO. There are things that I regret that I didn't do or did not have an opportunity to experience when I was younger. But I promise you, for everything that there was that feeling, God has responded in some way saying, this is why you couldn't participate in that, because it was inconsistent with what you said you wanted over here. And that was absolutely right. I remember one time when I was in high school and all my friends used to go to this club. And so I thought I was big and bad enough to go to the club too. And when we were in there, this guy tried to grab my bottom. And I wasn't thinking of the fact that I was separated from my friends. I wasn't thinking of the fact that I didn't know anyone in there. All I knew was that someone had touched my person without my consent. And so I grabbed his hand and I was ready to go. My flesh rose up. And the guy, he got so angry and he just started arguing and his friends surrounded me. And then out of nowhere, an angel came. This huge guy who went to my school, who I had never spoken to prior, who when I would see him in the halls after that, never spoke to me again. He pushes them out of the way. And when they saw how big he was, remember, Sherry, I'm telling you, he was at least 6'5", and he was built like a linebacker. And they saw him and they immediately backed off. And then he took me like a little kitten by his mom is grabbing a little kitten, right? He took me by the scruff right here and he marched me out the door. And he said, I am serious. And he said, you don't belong in places like this. And I don't ever want to see you here again. Do you understand me? And I said, yes. Now, we're the same age. We're juniors in high school. I don't know this man, but I know that he just saved me from probably getting like the worst beatdown ever. But that is how God shows up for me when it's about to get really bad and I've just done something that just made no sense. And I engaged in FOMO. Everybody's doing it. Oh my gosh, I got to do it. I'm going to miss something. But then there's that protection. Because it was inconsistent with where I was supposed to be, what I needed to do, where I needed to show up in this world. So FOMO,
Okay, so
FOMO is something we've just got to release and let go.
So I'm going to ask you two questions, and I'm going to ask the second one first because it'll back into the first one. And the second one is, in particular, with respect to FOMO, but in general, just with respect to life, why is it important to evaluate failure and put it behind you once and for all? And how does that ability impact your ability to win business? And then the second question is, I think the answer to that first question is in large part self-care. And so what does self-care look like from a spiritual, intuitive business coach perspective?
Yes, so I'll answer those together because they really are married. One is the husband, the other the wife, and whoever you want to assign the masculine or the feminine energy, it doesn't matter. They go together. So we go out into the world, and from the time that we are small, we are trained by people who love us, our teachers, our family, our friends, mentors, spiritual guides here on this earth, that the goal is perfection. The goal is to get it all right. The goal is to win. And if you don't get it all right, you go back and you hammer yourself until you figure out everything you did wrong. So next time they will never get you again. When the truth is, the goal was never the winning. It was never the getting the A+. It really was the process that you used to get there, and the people that you experienced and who experienced you. Because this is a journey in evolution, in transcendence. And if the only thing we're focused on is how to win, it means that all we're thinking about is how to crush other people. And that means that we are not evolving. We're not growing in love. As a matter of fact, we're shrinking. And that's the real failure. And so when there are things that happen that don't go the way we planned, we go back and we review not just what went quote unquote wrong, but the people that were hurt along the way. And a lot of times we don't include in ourselves in that people determination. How many times did we stay up late at night and got up early in the morning so our bodies didn't get proper rest? How many times did we fail to put our own needs to something simple, running to the restroom when we need to go? We're holding it for 2 and 3 hours. I used to do that in my practice. I don't anymore. How many times have we eaten something that we knew was going to be bad for our system because we were in a hurry and we didn't have time to get something proper and nutritious for us? And then we suffered the consequences, but we won. We were on time. We were first. And those things trickle down into our business because the people we pay, so whether that you call them your team, your employees, your contractors, whatever you want to call them, they see that. And that is the type of leadership that you are funneling through your organization. Your customers and your clients, they see that. And then they develop unrealistic expectations of what kind of service they're going to get. Instead of understanding that when you're on vacation, that's exactly what you're on, as opposed to you're responding to text messages and quick emails that are never quick, because it takes time for your mind to tune into that thing, to get the response, and then to come out and get back to the present moment of now. So that it'll only take 2 minutes. It's never 2 minutes. It's 15 to 30. Absolutely it is. And it's time away from the things that allow you to decompress. So this is beyond a bubble bath. I enjoy those. This is beyond exercising. I enjoy that too. This is taking time for meditation and prayer. Meditation being listening to God, prayer being talking to God. This is taking time for silence, giving the communications parts of our brain a chance to absolutely rest. This is time to be still. So this is not reading a book. This is not watching a show. I love doing those things too. But this is allowing the body to just be still and at rest so that our energetic field can renew. And then those are the things that allow us to now go out into the world and to be the champions that we are. And the championship manifests itself in improved business. So that's clients, customers, relationships. That is the prosperity and abundance on the physical realm that we say is money, cars, clothes, houses, all the rest of it. But first, it has to exist in the spiritual realm if it is going to be sustaining. And for most of us, and I'm an us, I was taught the exact opposite. You work hard, you pound, you get the stuff, and then you'll be happily ever after rewarded with the hereafter. And it's just not so. It's not
so. What I'm hearing you say is that self-care is a matter of time.
Yes.
And that time is A, sacrosanct.
Yes.
And B, necessary.
Yes.
And that its function is to be, not to do, to be. And what we be is present.
Nailed it, Dr.
So
Sharri.
self-care is conscious presence.
Yes.
Did I get it?
You got it. You got it. My spiritual mother, Rowena Silvera Beck, would say, the opportune time is now. There's no other time. It's just right now. Nothing else exists. It can't exist. Not won't, it cannot. Now has to be attended to right now. Fully and present. Yeah.
Okay, so you've talked about all of the external vision signs of success and the external images of success and the external targets of success. So is it possible to be a good leader, a community stakeholder, to be prosperous and have a loving family and still be unsatisfied with your life?
Oh, absolutely.
And if it is, which it must be, or you wouldn't ask that question, what are 3 ways that you can reset and re-engage, that you can back up and start over?
Yes. So it is absolutely possible to have everything in the world that other people have told you will build a successful life. Your home, your career, your family, and worldly success, and still be unhappy. Excuse me. I know, because it was me. And the part that continues to just astound me when I look back on it is that I did not realize that is what was happening. And it is really important to note that it wasn't some external force that was making me sad, making me unhappy. This was my inner child, my inner being that was calling out saying, this is not what I want. We have done everything that has been asked for us and we're still not happy. So there has to be something else. But I was insisting upon continuing with the same: work hard, you're successful, get recognition, and then we'll be happy. And the hamster wheel, I never got off. I never got off. And most people are like this. And then you look up and you're just like, the things that even used to make you just thrilled no longer do, or the amount of time that you're thrilled has been cut in half. And so you have to get to the place where, number one, to do the reset, you have to be honest with yourself about, I'm not happy. And most people are scared to death to do that. I know I was, because I thought it meant that I was blaming somebody. I'm married to a wonderful man. I have a beautiful daughter. I have a great career as an attorney and as an intuitive business coach. How can I not be happy? Well, because those are, again, the external things. I've not said anything about me, Lynita, inside, right? So that's the first thing. You got to be honest. And then the second thing is you got to be willing to do the deep dive, to ask the hard questions. Do you still want to do this, whatever this is? And if not, what would you really like to do? And remember, we're eclipsing the fear. Fear got us to the place where we were willing to ask the question. So it did its job. It was a tool. Now we're pulling that back in a toolbox, and we're pulling out intuitive wisdom and knowledge. We're opening ourselves to hear from the great I am. We're allowing our guides to help us to usher in this new thing. And how God talks to you, you will have to make that determination. For me, it's through song lyrics. Like just yesterday during my prayers and meditations, I was asking, okay, so what's next? What are we doing here? Where are we going with this? And this morning I woke up with a song. And so I could hear the melody and I recognized who was singing. And so I did a little search on Dr. Google and I pulled up the lyrics and and I saw, okay, I got it. Thank you. So determining how God talks to you. And then the third thing is now it's time to execute. We got to do it. We have to make the conscious decision that we're not going to run back to the familiar. And it's no shame in doing that. It just might mean that you're not ready right now. But know that there will come a point where you're going to have to. Because for me, the have to came when I got ill. I kept running back to what I knew because I was too afraid to take the next step into whatever was coming. And I developed stage 4 endometriosis. And it attached everywhere. It had gotten to my lungs. And I had to have a series of brutal surgeries for me to get back to me. And it took a long time for me to heal, not just physically, but also energetically. I don't know if a lot of people understand that when you are cut, that it's not just the physical body, that there is a tethering that is also severed, and it needs time to heal as well. And so if you can avoid that, we definitely want to. But those are the 3 things that you have to do.
Well, I love that one of them is figuring out how God talks to you. I spent the first 35 years of my life thinking that I could not hear the still small voice that I read about and heard about and everybody talked about. And I thought there was something wrong with me because I could not hear the still small voice. And then one day something happened. I don't remember what it was. But I suddenly had this awareness that I could hear the voice.
Yeah.
The reason I didn't recognize it was it sounds just exactly like the one you're hearing right now. And the reason and what the awakening that came, the aha moment was that when it's ego talking, it says, do this because yada, 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 yada. And when it's God talking, it says, do this. And then having said everything that needs to be said, it shuts the hell up.
Yes. Oh, that was good. That was good.
That was the thing for me. And I mention it now because that might be somebody else's story too, who doesn't know that that's their story. The most important thing there for me was, and I didn't realize it until this very moment, describing it to you, is that what I realized was not that God doesn't say because. It was that the God in me never shuts up. And that's the God that talks to me.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. I love your 3 ways. Those are fabulous. And now I've got it. You gave me, I asked people to give me questions that'll set them up to talk about what they really like, because I don't always know. And you gave me one that tickles me. So I'm going to ask it, even though I can't believe there's a good answer. How many people are willing to pay for lasting happiness? And is there such a thing? And I'm not sure if such a thing is lasting happiness or people who are willing to pay for it.
So I knew exactly which question you were talking about. That's why I started laughing. 78%. So out of 100 people, 78% in that room are willing to pay. And of that 78, 82% of them are willing to pay a premium for it. So that is how many people believe that they can buy happiness.
That's a sad thing.
But isn't that what we have been taught?
Oh, yes, that is our society. We are
everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's the society we live in. But what's sad is that I'm not sure if it's sad that they believe that they can buy it, or if what looks like lasting happiness to them is such a small thing that they could buy it. And then discover that it wasn't lasting happiness, because there isn't anything you can buy that lasts forever. That's just fascinating.
But last year when I came on your show, we were talking about the number of people who are experimenting with substances to help them to have a more elevated spiritual experience. And I remember us talking about the fact that it's effectively what I consider like jumping the line, because this spiritual journey that we're on, it takes time. And there is a reason why you have not experienced that feeling yet, because there's some other healing that needs to be done. There are some things that need to be released, people that need to be released, ideas that need to be released, to open you up so that you can have that wonderful experience without the enhancements. But that 78% are the people who believe that those enhancements are helping them to skip those parts so that they don't have to go through the hard part of the healing, the hard part of letting relationships go, just because it's time, not because either one of you have done something wrong or that you're angry. And even that in itself is an example of what we've been taught. We're no longer friends because you said something to me. We're no longer in relationship or romantically entangled because you cheated on me. No, there's not a because. Sometimes the ending is because y'all have done the work that was supposed to be done in that time. And now it's time for you to go off and experience something else so that you can grow. And you may come back together later, but you have to remember that this is a journey and this is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And this continuing desire to hop the line, to push past, that feeds back into that FOMO energy.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Well, now, see what that makes me think of is that I'm seeing P.T. Barnum saying there's a sucker born every minute, and everybody's looking for an easy way out.
Yeah. But
the plain fact of the matter is that you can't skip any steps.
No.
You can try as hard as you want to, but I can't remember who said it the first time, because they've been saying it for 50 years ago, and it always makes me giggle. When you run away from your problems, no matter how far, how fast you run, when you stop, guess what's right in front of you?
Hi, problems.
Everything you ran away from. Yeah. So that's I'm just fascinated. So this looks like a perfect place for me to ask you my 5 questions that I ask all my guests, because even when you've been here before, you're not going to give me the same answer, because you're not the same person who was here before. And I just love that, because sometimes people think they can give me the same answer and it never works. So the first question is probably the most important one from your perspective. Is there anything that you want our listeners, our viewers to know that I haven't asked you about?
So my upcoming events, I have a retreat coming up in the spring in March called the 90-Day Breakaway. And it is a 2-part program. So it is a long weekend from Friday to Monday, where we will go through all of the things that we've discussed today, because we all are busy and we have been told if we work hard and we give it all we've got, we'll live happily ever after, and ever after is elusive. And so we're going to get down to what that looks like for you and build a sustainable model for you to implement in your life when you go back home, because we all know we go on these retreats and we feel all good, and then we come back and what we left and we're just like, the problem is me. No, there's just some things that we need to do. And then after that, we have another 90 days where we are together on weekly coaching calls. They are live via Zoom, small group, to ensure that you stay on track and to get the support you need to make this wonderful epiphany a life habit so that it will take you through your journey. So I am very excited about that. So it's called the 90-Day Breakaway, and the information has not been put on my website, but if you go right now, there is a promo video at LynitaMitchell-Blackwell.com, and you'll click 90-Day Breakaway. It's right there at the top. And there is a video summation on the first retreat we did a couple of years ago. And you can get a really good feeling, and then you can drop in your information and to contact us. So when we start sending out the info later this fall, you'll be the first to get it.
And just to set you up for that, don't you have a book that's on Amazon?
I absolutely do. Live Life on Fire, the ultimate guide. Oh, yes. The ultimate guide to a successful life full of peace, joy, and fulfillment. And we break life up into the quadrants of silence, being, meditation, and breathing, so that it all leads to the 5th and final quadrant, which is living a life of awe. And awe is the embrace of all of your skills, gifts, and talents so that you can be successful in whatever area that you are called to be in. So for me, as an attorney and as a coach, I allow my intuitive capacity to just flow. And I will tell you, the first time that I shared, well, I thought it was the first time I was sharing my gift with one of my clients. She was not surprised. She actually asked for more information. And that's when it hit me that the only person that's shocked that I have these skills is me. Like, there are people who come and do business with you because they realize who you are and how you show up in the world. It's not because your fees are lower. It's not because you do more work. It's not because you do different work. There are thousands of attorneys who do what I do, but there are people who are only going to come to me. There are hundreds of coaches who may not call themselves intuitive business coaches, but they have a similar track. But there are people who are only going to work with me. And I will say that after reading this book, I have gotten such beautiful responses from people saying, I finally feel comfortable being who I am. So I don't feel the need to be straitjacketed into someone else's definition of what professional looks like, what successful looks like. I can look like who I want to look like. And that's exactly right.
All right. Now that's the best intro to or lead in, I should say, segue to my second question, which is, how does what you do and how you do it, how you be Lynita Mitchell-Blackwell, how does all of that promote, encourage, support, pick your own verb, conscious evolution?
Yes. So conscious evolution is understanding that we are here to evolve. And I don't normally use the same word to define another word, but that is the appropriate one. When many of us think about evolution, we're thinking more of the physical, not necessarily the spiritual or even the emotional. And I would like people to take it even a step further, Dr. Sharri, and I would like you to consider yourself a 4-part being. That's the aggregate. So you have the intellectual, you have the emotional, you have the spiritual, and then all of those together is the aggregate. For those who have a Christian background, this will sound familiar because it sounds like Father, Son, Holy Spirit, the great Trinity. If you think about it from that perspective, there are certain experiences that you must have in this life in order for you to grow to the next thing. And God does not give us, Spirit does not give us, all that is, does not give us anything that we cannot bear. But bear does not mean carry. It means grow through to the next thing here. And so until we get step 1, there is no moving on to step 2. For those who are familiar with, I believe it's Maslow's pyramid, you have to satisfy the foundation, the basics, food, clothing, and shelter, before you can move on to any other levels. This is the same concept. So when we're talking about now translating that into business, translating that into our personal lives, translating that into how we show up in the community for other people, it's the same basics. First, we have to take care of ourselves. We have to make sure that we're in a good place, that we understand that whatever is happening, that we have created this experience for ourselves, that no one did it to us, even when it is painful and it appears that way, that there was a reason that we found ourselves in this spot, and that we have to get to the bottom of it and be committed to the time that it may take to get there. Because for some people, it's, I got it, okay. And for others, it might not. And then we can move on and do the next thing. So in a business setting, then we can move on, and we might need to change our clients or customers that we work with. The call might need to be different. When we're talking about our personal lives, maybe the type of person that we say that we get really excited about, maybe that person needs to change, right? When we're talking about who we're attracted to, and when we're showing up in the community, maybe we don't need to show up to everything. and I know that that's hard, because for most of us, we've made the determination as to what we show up to and how we show up is it positive? Is it good? But I think at this point in most of our lives, particularly if you're tuning into this show, you're not really fooled up with mess, right? So everything that comes is positive. It is love. It is growth. It is evolution. But is it consistent with the scope and with the path that you have been called to? Because if you can't answer that as a yes, then that's no, and it needs to be set aside. It has to go. Yeah.
All righty then. Now this question sounds a lot like that last question, but it's not quite the same.
Okay.
How does what you do, how you be, how you Lynita, how you intuitively coach, the whole shooting match, how does that contribute to unveil, support, etc., world peace?
Peace starts with ourselves. There is this song, and I don't remember what it might. This might be the name of the song. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me.
That's it.
Yeah. We try so hard, Dr. Sharri, to make the world a better place, but the world begins here. You know, I was listening to Billy Carson, it must have been about 2 weeks ago, on a podcast interview, and he was talking about the number of planets and solar systems and all of the rest of it. And he said there are 13 billion within our universe. And he said that the human body encoded, if you use every strand of DNA, can take 13 billion. So that means that every one of us has the capacity to be the universe, to remember, to be. And so if we're talking about being a blessing and helping other people, then under those circumstances, then we absolutely have to take care of ourselves first.
Wow. Okay, I'll take an order of that. All right, here's the one that most folks get the biggest kick out of. You have to close your eyes for this one because you're going to use your imagination.
Okay.
Supposing that every single little detail goes exactly the way we want it to go, the way you want it to go. Every encounter, every event, every relationship, every morning, every noon, every night, every single thing goes exactly the way you want it to go. 10 years from now, what does Lynita Blackwell, Mitchell-Blackwell look like as an intuitive coach?
So I actually have the answer to that because I have seen that in a dream I had probably about 2 years ago. And I am standing on a stage and I am surrounded by the most wonderful people. Everybody there is happy and excited and is really tapped into who they are, how they show up in the world, how they serve in the world. And I have just delivered this amazing keynote that has everybody just revved up and ready to go out and to serve. But it's because they are happy, they are joyous, they are peaceful, and they are fulfilled. Like that is that moment for me. That's the culminating moment. And it's funny because I am not sure when that moment is to come, but I saw it. I could smell things. I could taste them. I know that I had a moment where I went forward. And it's one of the things that keeps me very excited about this work.
All righty then. And here's my final question. Will you come back?
Absolutely, yes. We got to do a 3
my next opening. My first opening is August 12th of 25. Can I pencil you in?
You absolutely can. Thank you.
Yay. Okay. All right, folks. Now I want to let you know that our guest next week is Reverend Kelly Isola. I said it wrong. It's Isola. And she's going to be talking about social equity and inner spirituality. So you don't want to miss it because boy, oh boy, can she talk. And she's got lots to say. And this is her second trip. So you'll recognize her as soon as you see her. And in the meantime, have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend. See you next week. And remember that I love you.
Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things. Amazing, amazing, you will do amazing things.
On behalf of everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network. Come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time.